next guest then, Narasimha Rao, who's President and CEO of Yara Fertilizers, joins in to talk about how business is shaping up for them and a quick outlook on the fertilizer as well as chemical industry, which has been in focus, and the markets have been fancying this space for a while. In fact, Mr. Rao, before I come to you, Credit Suisse in a recent note, structural changes seen in fertilizers at the ground level. What are the changes that you're seeing in the last 12 to 15 months that convinces you that what Credit Suisse is saying about the potential of the space, where the prospects are mostly linked to around budget time when subsidies are enhanced or greater allocation is made to the sector, deviating from that sort of government support is pretty much striding itself on building an independent story where growth is coming back in a meaningful manner?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on the show. Coming back to your first question, yes, leaving apart the routine things about the budget related focus issues, I think key changes that we foresee now is, of course, as you rightly mentioned, the direct benefit transfer to the farmer and how really it is shaping up on the ground. That's one. And of course, within the industry, we do see some sort of sense prevailing in direction towards the consolidation, direct towards the vision that the Prime Minister has set up towards doubling the farmers' income. So now all this buzz is happening. So I would say there is a shift happening from the traditional way this industry has been looking towards the agriculture over the last few decades, but of course still with some sort of pessimism that is it a reality or is it just a talk. So at least there is a new direction that people are looking forward to.
Okay. Mr. Rao, China environmental concerns have actually helped capacities. Is that a piece which is also aiding global prices, you think?
I would say actually it's not really easing only because of the China's environmental concerns. Obviously, there's a lot of new capacity also coming across the globe, especially in the western part and the Middle East part. That is one part. And obviously, also there are a lot of initiatives that are happening within various industries and governments on towards the promoting balanced nutrition, these sort of things. Farmers are getting more and more intelligent. So overall, they are trying towards, especially in the developing markets, there's a lot of change that is happening, but rather it's a bit unfortunate to say that India is not fully up in pace with the changes that were happening elsewhere in the world. Then coming back to why the global prices are easing, it's also in a way linked not only to the fertilizer sector, it's also linked to the one of the key raw materials, that's the gas related supplies, etc. in the worldwide. So these are the things that are also leading towards the easing of the pricing.
Okay, so do you see a shift happening in India because of environmental issues in China for specialty chemical, and do you think it is going to be long lasting?
Yes, definitely in China it's going to be long lasting, and I can tell with some sort of confidence because before this role I was also responsible for the Asia region. So my interaction with China was there for last 7 years. So also you need to understand China, one typical case, most of Chinese fertilizer, especially urea production, is coal based. So obviously the environmental impact in China is much larger issue than in some of the other markets. For example, in India urea production is not as much as coal based, it's more on the natural gas or the imported natural gas. So in that sense, the environmental impact relatively between China and India, I would say it's a big issue for China.
It is. How do you look at the specialty chemical space? What's your sense there? Because the market seems to be fancying that segment quite a bit. We've seen how a listed company, Tata Chemicals, drew a lot of support from the markets on the back of how the specialty chemicals business was shaping up. Of course, now they are also, diversifying into other products. But how competitive and profitable is specialty chemicals?
If you may allow, I would like to limit my comments to the specialty fertilizers rather than the broader spectrum of specialty chemicals, because our core business is more towards the fertilizers. So when it comes to specialty fertilizers, it is more towards serving the farmer in improving his productivity and yield by the side of the commodity fertilizers. So I feel that's a space there is a tremendous potential both in India, across also all the emerging markets.
Right. And so how do you think India has a competitive advantage over there versus MNC players perhaps?
I would say obviously there is definitely an intent is there, but does India's domestic industry has a competitive advantage over the MNCs when it comes to specialty fertilizers? I would say that's not the real scenario. So if you really talk about specialty fertilizers influence into India, there's a lot of dependence going to be on the imported fertilizers. The reason being is that to produce these specialty fertilizers, some of the ingredients, raw materials, India doesn't have those resources. So then also it's a matter of scale also. So to have the imported resource, raw materials from far away places till the scale is established, it's going to be a challenge. So in that sense, I would say the specialty fertilizers influence in India by and large will to trigger and start with will be depending on the imported products.
Okay, Mr. Rao, let's get in some numbers here. In November 2017, 7.23 lakh ton fertilizer was sold under DBT, which is nearly a 4 times increase over prior months. Are these sharp increases benefits of DBT being implemented?
Yes, definitely. Here I must say that when it comes to the DBT, first I would like to start saying there is a positive tendency that's happening towards the DBT. The belief is increasing, and the government and the industry together with a great collaboration have an Herculean task of installing about 300 over 1,000 point of sale machines across pan India. I think that is something that is also is happening very rapidly, and more importantly putting them into use is what really is what showing up the surge that you just mentioned. And we are even more optimistic that in the coming months to come you will see the surge in the numbers in very high, that the DBT process is actually moving in the right track.
Okay, Mr. Rao, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for taking the time out and explaining how exactly the industry dynamics are moving around. Good speaking with you.
Thank you so much.